Venezuela, then Iran. The question now is, could Cuba be next? It looks like there has been nothing subtle, right, about the hints that President Trump has been dropping, telling another media outlet today that Cuba is going to fall pretty soon. They want to make a deal, and so I'm going to put Marco Rubio over there to see how well that works out. All of that echoing what he said here yesterday. Listen to this.
But what's happening with Cuba is amazing. And we think that we want to finish this one first, but that will be just a question of time before you and a lot of unbelievable people are going to be going back to Cuba, hopefully not to stay.
And joining us now is NBC News analyst and former congressman from Florida, Carlos Curbelo. Carlos, great to see you. So Cuba going to fall pretty soon. I mean, what do you think pretty soon means? And what do you think that Rubio's visit is going to look like?
Gaddy, what it likely means is that the Cuban regime is at the table and that they are actually willing to give some concessions to the United States, maybe for the first time ever in terms of meaningful concessions. So the president very bullish in terms of the prospects for change in Cuba. The rumor on the Hill, and people expect news as early as next week out of Cuba, is that most of the changes for now are going to be economic in nature, meaning that the regime will remain in place. So perhaps something similar to what we've seen in Venezuela. Of course, that's going to make some Cuban Americans in South Florida and throughout the country frustrated because what the community wants to see is the regime go. But it seems that for now, the president might be content stopping just short of that.
Yeah, and NBC is reporting that the Trump administration is exploring filing charges against either members of the Cuban regime or the Communist Party. What do you think? Is this more likely to be a Maduro snatch and grab situation if it happens, or like a bomb and kill the Ayatollah situation?
No, Gaddy, I think this is a negotiation tactic by the administration. The example of what they did to Nicolás Maduro based on a United States indictment is there for the whole world to see. The Cubans know it extremely well because 32 Cubans died in that operations, Cubans who were in Venezuela protecting Maduro. So this is a way to increase pressure and to tell the Cuban leaders, we could indict Raul Castro. Raul Castro, who's 94 years old, Gaddy, he does not want to spend what remains of his life in an American prison. So this is a way to increase pressure and to show the Cubans that if they don't negotiate in goodwill, if they don't agree to whatever terms the United States is putting out, their leaders could face a similar fate as Nicolás Maduro.
Let's say they kept up the rhetoric, though. I mean, Cuba's president has been ramping up military exercises amid some of these threats. What kind of defense could Cuba actually put up?
Well, Gaddy, it wouldn't be much of a contest. The Cuban military is not what it used to be 30 years ago when they still had a lot of more modern Soviet-era weapons. The soldiers, I mean, the generals do very well because they're very wealthy. They're tied into the economy. But lower officers and Cuban military aren't well compensated. So there wouldn't be very much resistance if the United States decided to pursue some kind of military action. It would probably be a very short and expedient operation.
And as you know better than I do, out there in Florida, Cuba is famously less than 100 miles away from Florida. We saw so much telegraphing with the movement of troops into the Caribbean before Venezuela. Then we saw the same type of telegraphing very early on, things headed out to the Middle East, and then we saw the attacks on Iran start. Does that same telegraphing have to happen, or can a strike, a surprise strike, be launched from American soil?
It would be very easy, Gatti, for the United States. I mean, there's an Air Force Reserve base in Homestead. There's a naval air station in Key West, very, very close to Cuba. So the United States does have significant assets. Southcom, the command center for Latin America, South America, is in Miami. So there are a lot of military assets here. If the United States needed to respond, if at some point they decided that military option was the best one, they could easily execute that with assets that are already here in this area. But Gatti, I highly doubt it is going to get to that point. There is so much economic pressure on Cuba. Fuel is running out on the island that they are very likely to reach some kind of an agreement, at least to buy the regime some time.
Yeah, let's hope something peaceful happens. Carlos Curbelo, thank you so much for joining us.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.